All right, live and in effect. WARR Media on YouTube. Back at it. It's a Thursday evening, so we've come to label Thursdays as our running nights, running with WARR, giving you some of our best talk from basketball all across the board, NBA, college, WNBA. You know, we do it. Even a little bit of high school or whatever now and then. We talk the game because we walk it like we talk it. You know, that's how we do it in Chicago. And that's definitely how our guy do, an honorary Chicagoan. But he's still New York through and through. He even representing the DMV now, man. He's all around
Hey,
the world, man. This is our homeboy from way back and way forward going into the future. He's always fam. So we always glad to have him on, Mr. Scoop B, Brandon Robinson.
What's up? How
The
you?
legend, my legend, the legend.
Show us some love.
Nah, this is Brandon from around the way. What's going on?
hey,
Don't let the shadow lead tell it, man. You was a feature, the big feature this week, man. That was a nice story there on you. You know, we're gonna talk a bit about you, of course. You know, we always love to catch up with you.
Sure.
But I want first off I want to say, good evening to the world, to everybody except Myers Leonard. Good evening. And this I think this is an interesting day for us to all convene, because I didn't really plan it this way, but as it turns out, we exactly 1 year from the pandemic being official. The pandemic was officially labeled by the outbreak of COVID-19, officially labeled by the World Health Organization a year ago today, and also to bring it closer to us. I think the way that we're going to commemorate this day is this was the day that we found out that Gobert had COVID-19.
Mhm.
That game was shut down, Utah and Oklahoma City, and essentially, the league was shut down at that point. But it's been a wild year. It's been challenging, and a lot of losses have happened. We fought through it all, and I'm just glad to see all three of you guys here. That we're still standing and we're still here. And our fifth guy who would be here, hopefully he'll show up at some point. Even if he doesn't, it's cool. But Drew actually, came down with COVID during the past year. So it's just I know none of us are prone to take things for granted in the first place, but I think we've learned a lot more about that this year. And I don't know. We just want to start off. We've been doing this thing. I'm trying to get this thing tip offs going where we just have a little, quick subject matter at the beginning of the show and going back and forth, but going around the table as it were. But I don't know if we could just start off this show by just sort of giving y'all thoughts on what this year has been like. Just what this year's been like and what you've taken from it. You want to start,
Josh?
Scoop?
Yeah, that's fine.
Or Josh? Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah. This year has been a year of transition for me, honestly. I'm doing a lot more things that if I didn't really think about it now, I really was able to take the time to really think about and plan what I want to do. And I'm doing it. I'm in grad school. I'm getting back to ITS and trying to do, more interviews, more podcasts, more writing when I can. Growing up and buying a house, and it's just all that stuff is, taking place to where, I'm becoming, as they say, I'm becoming a man. So I just, to be able to go through all that, and not many people knew, but, I actually had my little stint of COVID as well, shortly after I bought the house. So because of that, being able to go through that process, me and my mom's had it at the same time. So we were trying to heal and recoup and get back into the swing of things with that, and on top of everything else that I was doing. Yeah, you do sit down and take time to reflect on everything you've done, how blessed you are, to just live and just be able to breathe every day. It was, I didn't have too many breathing issues or anything like that, but other people have had worse conditions, and to know some of them and to have at least a snippet of it, even though it wasn't as serious as other people's, you really just sit down and think about everything you've gone through. You count your blessings, and you really do appreciate each day by day that much more. So to be able to do things with you guys, and especially since I think this is good, Kyle, maybe like my third or fourth full year with you guys or something like that.
Yeah.
It's been it's a blessing to see how much growth we've gone to this point, and the fact that we're still growing and doing bigger and bad things, and to grow the relationships that we have, especially with everybody in this chat and in this podcast show. So, I'm just grateful. Honestly, I'm just grateful. I'm blessed. Take nothing for granted, and I just thank God. That's pretty much how I've taken this year, and continue to take this past this current year that we're going through now, because bigger and better things are coming for us, and you just prepare for what you're prepared for what you asked for and what you've been praying for, and this is the things that we've been doing, and to be able to live out those dreams and to do those things now, and actually really take time to reflect on the good and the bad and everything that you go through to get to where you are now. It's a humbling experience, and within that humbling experience, you become grateful for all you guys and everything, and family, and every blessing that you can get, even just to take a breath. That's something that not many people, over 500,000 people, I can't even say right now. So it just puts life into perspective. I'm grateful for this year, the growth that's come from it, what I've been able to experience and achieve, especially with you guys, and continuing to grow from there. That's pretty much my biggest thing.
Chris, whoever we want to go.
I mean, Josh got up to a lot. Congratulations, Josh! I didn't know you bought a house. That's a step. That's a step that I've been considering a lot myself the last couple of years, and I don't know if it's a step that I'll soon take, just because of my thoughts on mortgages. I said if I buy a house, I want to do it like Frank Lucas did, just throw the cash in the realtor's face and say I'll buy it like that, and that's a very tall proposition for anybody to be able to do in this landscape. I didn't have the best year. I mean, I don't know anybody who can say that they did. Even with everything that Josh has said, and again, congratulations to you, Josh, Scoop, with the new news, leaving heavy and branching out, and everything that you've been doing. Obviously, everybody, I think, had a difficult time of it, whether they were directly impacted by COVID in terms of their health, the health of a family member or a loved one, someone close to them, or any people who lost people. Just tangentially, that was difficult to work through. And there was a time, I think, in the summer when things felt normal-ish. I wasn't going out to bars willy-nilly, but I was hooping at the playground just about every day. I was playing softball over at the park off of State and 24th with a group over there, and things felt kind of normal. And then we got to September, October, and we went back in, and we had to go back in and hibernate for safety. So I think in that regard, it was difficult. But I think it just clarified some things that I needed to do in terms of mental health, and some other things also helped clarify that. And so I've started doing that, and just trying to get things on track. I got lucky, where I feel like I got very lucky through the help of my then partner Jesse, who auditioned for the show, the game show, The Chase, and then I put in an audition, and I was lucky enough to get cast and got on the show. Me and my teammates, we banked out. Thank you. That was an experience, and if there's anything that I could take from that year, that is, it's I feel like if only for the fact that my teammates carried me like a JanSport a little bit, I kind of want to get back on another show and show that I held back. I held back at some times. So maybe we'll try and make that a career. But it crystallized sports in a way that I'm still trying to. That's a bad definition. You can't say something's crystallized if you're still trying to figure out what it looks like. But the position that sports held in my life for so long was so important and so held so much weight. And it's kind of still trying to put it in perspective, because obviously these sports are important, right? The WNBA is growing. Women's soccer is growing. Soccer in general, football is growing. All these sports are growing in popularity because they bring people together in some way. But still kind of trying to find out what that means within the scope of everything else. So that is a question that I've been asking for a while anyway. And this past year gave it a little bit more weight. So I'm still examining that, but still trying to get things regulated here and grind like these three gentlemen so that I can get a feature article about me one day, and I'll tell people all the random stuff I do. Like, oh man, I can't even think of some random quirk now. that was my thing, man. That was my speech.
I'm surprised nobody reached out to you about the show. Like, no media around here has reached out to you.
I mean, it's pretty much been that way. Our guy Elliot, he's camera ready, and not to put him on blast or reveal anything, but he is a guy who could definitely be on more television channels on a more permanent basis in the future. And I will go to the soapbox for him on that forever. Our Catherine, she got interviewed by her local station back in Columbus, where she's from, in Ohio. Okay. But otherwise, nah, man, Channel 2 ain't come, Channel 5 ain't coming. I'm hoping I can get on Check Please, at least. review some restaurants, something.
I don't know how you can flip that into that, but I think we'd all love to be on Check Please. Who doesn't want to be on Check?
That was the thing in Chicago for like 6 years at least. It was like, yo, you got on Check Please?
Yeah.
Made it, man.
Yeah, people acting funny. They could put you, like, Channel 2 could put you on, or Channel 7. That's what channel you was on. They could put you on. They too worried about G and Greco offending Cheryl Burton, though.
Yeah, that was a bad look, Mark. Yeah. I don't know what you were doing, my guy.
And anyway, Scoop, you got any words, man?
The last year has been productive, but also just really introspective. I think that the world has depended on sports and entertainment a lot to be in the escape from your actual world around you. And I think being home, and I think being forced to be busy gives you the opportunity to mend fences with people, gives you the opportunity to actually get better at things that you didn't know you were good at. And it also gives you the opportunity to go harder. And I think for me, I took the last year personally, specifically because I lost my grandmother during COVID over the last year. And, she was one of my biggest cheerleaders. And, me and her, have constantly, talked about the next one, just the next part of life for both of us. And, even in 2019, I was on the road a lot. And when I would come home, I would try to get in. If I was coming from somewhere nearby, I would try to, stop by her and see her at the hospital and just check with her. So for me, like, I took 2020 personally. But in addition to that, I took 2020 to really just better myself, invest in myself, really work out just the kinks and things of that nature. And I think, when all of that stuff happened between, the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Utah Jazz that night, a couple things. One, I was a finalist for a job in Utah, and I didn't get it. And I was looking at Rudy Gobert touching those microphones, and I just was like, wow, that could have been anybody. So I look at that situation, and then I look at, just that night, I was up very late. I was texting back and forth with somebody in the Oklahoma City Thunder locker room who had to go through, all of that testing and all of the things that were going on. I think it was something we just didn't know what was going on. It wasn't something that was quantifiable. And I don't think any biology or chemistry class or any medical course could have prepared us for, what ultimately would be the last year. They told us 2 weeks. They told us a month. It's still going on. And I think, me personally, I think we're moving a little bit premature and trying to get back to quote unquote normal. But, during that time, just having conversations with people that are close to me. One of the things that were so important was, identifying what would be the trend while everybody was home, video. And in addition to that, investing in stocks. And, those were two of the things that I really, really did, during the time that we had from March of 2020 to current day. And I think being creative, being consistent, and being reliable, for me was so important. And you guys have seen some of the strides that I've made since 2018 to now. And, the fact that I was in the field and had numbers and emails and just who I know, stuff that we would talk about in the car and things that you would see in real time, the world began to see. And I just really used 2020 to just better myself and stay focused, stay diligent. And, the last year has just been that. I'm still not comfortable. And here we are.
I gotta ask you, because you said reliable, and I think that's tough when everybody was just put under so much pressure, like you said with your grandmother. And my condolences for your loss.
Mm-hmm.
But and so many other people were in the same position, and basically, for the majority of the time, whether it was by the federal government or their jobs, were told was like, "Hey, you got to tough it out." How'd you get through, man?
Food helps. Food helps. And really taking that energy and putting it into your work. I think for me, we all have the same 24 in a day. You utilize them to the best of your ability. So, I think one of the things that I've really enjoyed over the last year was just slowing down. I think for me, this is not my personal experience, but I know people who have gone to jail, and people that I know that have gone to jail tell me this is like summer camp for them because all they got to do is stay in the house all day. So, listen, you think about, you think about the Spanish flu and some of the other things that have gone in the past. And, people back then didn't have social media. They had to send stuff through Telegram or whatever. Like, we have computers, we have phones, we have social media to pass the time. And when a couple of people that I know, that brothers who have done time, put it in that perspective, for me, it made all the sense in the world. I don't plan on going to jail, but I feel like, at the same time, like, you're home, like, you have Netflix, you have Disney Plus, you have cable, you have Kenny, Charles, Shaq, Ernie. And I feel like you have all of those utilizations of tools. But I also think that during that time when it was taken away, it really did give you perspective, even from the perspective of, if you don't follow sports, you look at plays, like Broadway's closed, So it's like, what do you lean on? You lean on the things that you love, but also you enhance those things. I spent a lot of time on the phone. One of the greatest blessings for me during COVID, like when it first hit, like March, April, May, during those months, was really because I was so busy. I was able to just sit on the phone, not with league sources, but with family and friends. Like you sit and you're able to send money to close family that was rocking with you, when you were in college and you're trying to, advance and just, people who had your back. You're able to catch up with, your college roommate or somebody on the basketball team from when you were in college or high school. Or, like, for me, just was spending time on the phone, spending time just reminiscing and laughing. And, as it relates to, like, the actual work, you'll be crazy the type of people that I'd be on FaceTime with talking about trades, like talking about just life. Like, I remember like in March and April when COVID first hit, I would be on FaceTime talking with Elton Brand, and he would be playing with his kids. Like, we'd be talking about, like, him growing up in Westchester County. We'd be talking about like just stuff that had nothing to do with his role with the Sixers. Like, to me, you really got to see people on a human level, and I think that's something that I won't forget.
Okay. I appreciate you guys speaking in that way. You know, don't want to get too serious or bogged down or anything, but I think, you know, the way that we've all lived our lives and the way that we typically express ourselves on this platform, you know, I know we've had some serious moments on this show in the past year. You know, reacting to the NBA, the short strike that the players had, or you know, and reacting to things that have happened in our society,
Mm-hmm.
things against black people and whatnot. You know, the continuing fight for freedom and fight for respect and you know, all these things that we still have to deal with. You know, it was a trip, man. This whole past year, and you know, I could relate to stuff that all of y'all have said. You know, I lost a grandfather in large part to COVID. I believe, you know, he was hospitalized with COVID. You know, before he passed, he was let out. Shortly after he was let out, he passed. But you know, yeah, just you know, having money, losing money, you know, just like I say, being cooped up. You know, I ain't been really I ain't been to prison. I spent a night in jail, but you know, I can I could sit still for a moment too, and I've learned that, you know, how to do that better, and you know, it's interesting. Like I feel, you know, stronger in a lot of ways. It's like, you know, what doesn't kill you, you know. It's just hard that, you know, these lessons you have to take, you know, they come with a certain weight to them, and there's certain elements of survivor's remorse that could even kick in at times, because you know that other people who have, you know, there's so many people who we lost that we shouldn't have, and you know, you wish that you know, that you know, just wish on a whole humanistic scale that things were better. But I just, at this moment in time right now, I just, like I say, I'm counting my blessings, and I'm, you know, I feel empowered in certain ways that I haven't before, and I feel more ready for the rest of my life than I have at any point. And you know, you know, I'm gonna, you know, take a lot of from this past year for the rest of my life, and you know, just hope that it means something going forward, and you know, that all of this has meant something, and that it's, you know, it wasn't for naught, for you know, when it's not going to be all trivial, you know, it's going to really mean something. I think it is, you know. I think, you know, you know, expanding what we do with Regal, and you know, like these video. A year ago, I wasn't thinking about videos or nothing. I wasn't thinking about much of anything. And like you know, for a month from this time last year, going into like April, I was you know, down bad, man. It was like, you know, it didn't feel much of anything, but you know, I was reawoken over the course of time, and a lot of that has to do with, you know, you guys and my friends and my collaborators, and you know, I really appreciate you guys, and you know, just you know, I'm more open to sharing that appreciation and love than I was a year ago as well. So I just want to make that known, and we're gonna keep it going. Like I say on the show at the end, we're gonna keep bouncing, and we're gonna keep moving. You know, so keep going as high as we can go. But yeah, that's it for now as far as the heavy stuff. But
Pun intended.
let's huh? Oh yeah. Definitely for you. It's the end of the heavy stuff. So, but yeah, let's go into that. Let's go into that right quick. Like, you decided to leave heavy, and you got some stuff going on. You got your, I guess you got your series with Lisa Ann, and that has to be pretty interesting. You two make an interesting pair there, and you still got a lot of high profile there, man. But you've also, on a personal level, sort of you sort of moving away from the New York scene a little bit. Just let us in a bit on your whole way of thinking right now, your whole mindset. Where are you at right now?
I'm in my office, in my skin looking in. But honestly, I'm in a situation where I left heavy and definitely had a good run, 2.5 years with that company. And I can't say anything, but I can only say great things about heavy, particularly because I joined there at a point in 2018 when I was getting a lot of news, a lot of information, particularly as related to the Lakers, as well as the Nets, and and then into a position with Zenny doing different things there. So definitely 2018 to 2021 has been nothing but greatness, and I have enjoyed it. Even with Scoop B Radio as well, the podcast garners anywhere from 2 to 3 million hits annually, and we've had anybody from Charles Barkley, Pete Sampras. We recently had Damon Dash on. We have a lot of surprises over the next month of guests that we have, and we actually have a guest. We actually have a show that's dropping Monday the 15th, and looking out for that. But yeah, man, I'm enjoying the process, and as you mentioned, I have a partnership with Bovada, and I do Instagram Live with Lisa Ann every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern time, and it's crazy. Lisa and I met in 2016 at a comedy show. A childhood friend of mine was in a comedy show, and this was actually when I was at CBS, and I used to have friends come up to the studio and kind of hang out, and he was like, "Yo, I'm doing a comedy show, and Lisa Ann is and I was like, "Who's that?" He's like, "You don't know who Lisa Ann is?" I was like, "No."
I really quiet boy.
Huh?
Quiet boy.
Yeah, Scoop. Scoop staying off those sites.
I look at faces, not names. So no, and I mean that, like, I'm not trying to play it. No, seriously, like when that was brought to the table, like, okay, cool, I'll go. And I was introduced to her. She seemed cool. We followed each other on Twitter, like, mad cool. Stayed in touch since. And then what ended up happening was I had her on Heavy Live with Scoop B. It was a digital show that I was doing through Heavy, and we talked here and there, but you had her on, and just the chemistry was there from the jump. And in between that, I had Sherry DeVille on, and we talked about like video games. You guys know Sherry DeVille. She's another adult film star, and she loves video games. We talked about the vaccine. We talked about a myriad of things, not just about their professions, and it was pretty cool. Lisa Ann has an interest in sports. She's Sirius XM radio, and then Sherry plays video games. So there was a rapport there, and towards the end of Heavy Live with Scoop B, we did stuff with Mark Cuban, Tiki Barber. We had Kendrick Perkins on. We had Clarissa Shields. Just a multitude of different people that I know or just connected within the field. Jay Williams was on. So the natural progression of, okay, I write, but I'm also doing a lot more on camera stuff. I'm hearing on a lot of shows.
I'd say that's really where you seem to have advanced a lot this year. Like you when you were with CBS, you did get a lot of great interviews, exclusive interviews and stuff. But you seem to really, even from then, step up in this past year with your ability to book and really get a myriad of great guests on which you with for Scoop B Radio and for Heavy or whatnot. And it's been fun to see just how much you've progressed in that manner.
For sure. Definitely definitely fun. And I learned a lot, during my time at CBS, particularly as it relates to just headlines and knowing when to tweet, how to tweet, when to post, and just having fun with it. I think the transition from 2015, 2016 with doing CBS, and then 2018, 2019, a lot of Lakers stuff, a lot of Net stuff, a lot of free agency stuff. Who said what, who's going where, and then transitioning into heavy, just natural progression, and then TV spots here and there now. Next
But
steps.
it seems that because well, me and you, we have personal conversations to this degree, but it seems that you want to. No, correct me if I'm wrong, but like you said, you had that period for a couple of years where you were in the mix, in the mud, with all the rumors and everything, and there's you win some and you lose some with that, and whenever you lose, no matter your hit rate, people want to come at you when you put yourself in that area. Like they say, oh, Scoop knows this or he don't know that. Who is this dude with his sources? What is his sources? But it seems that you learned a lot from that. But you also it wasn't something that you wanted to extend for a long period of time. Is that correct?
Yeah, their source is their mama, first of all. Second of all, I feel like at the end of the day, no. I mean, it's great for the blogs. It definitely advances your visibility. People do have the right to change their mind. I would say that my hit rate is about 85 to 87%. But I say at the same time, you got to sprinkle more than just that. You don't want to be a one-trick pony. And I have things to say and know how to get people to talk, not force it, just a natural conversation. And I think, be honest with you, breaking news was never really my interest. I just talk to a lot of people, and a lot of people tell me things. And it's like you take that and you run with it. But I'll be honest with you, I think that the thing that really got people's eye and attention, there were two things. One, Anthony Davis and the Lakers, as far back as the fall of 2018, and then Kyrie's shoulder injury. And I think the Kyrie shoulder injury changed a lot of things.
Yeah, that was a particularly wild time because a lot of people was talking out, talking about the shoulder. A lot of people was talking about out the side of their neck with Kyrie in that point, and you were one of the few people who had honest to goodness information with that, and you were able to just sit back and you said what you said, and people again would discredit you, but then you just sat back and was like, okay, we'll see what it is. And
it's interesting when I look back at that because I got that information like around Christmas time, and I remember I went on vacation, and like my phone was off, and I came back to my phone. And I looked at Twitter, and it was like, zzz, like it would stop ringing. I was like, what is going on? And like Kai sat in a press conference, and they asked him something, and he was like, yeah, my shoulder, like it had a little bursitis in it, and it was like Twitter was going crazy. And then I was getting texts from people that were in the meeting room when he said it. They were like, holy sugar, honey, iced tea, Scoop, you weren't lying. Like, no, like what, like. It's what I learned in this situation is people respond to recognizable names and networks. And when you are an indie person or when you are not the machine, they question everything. And I also learned that you could be at a name and a network and be wrong and they still don't care.
Yeah. Yep.
I remember I didn't get to see the whole movie, but it was on a preview for a VHS that we had, that movie, The Paper, from like way back in the 80s. And there's a scene with Glenn Close saying like, it doesn't matter if it's wrong tomorrow. We just have to be right today.
Right.
And that's a lot of, the credibility comes from either like outlets or newspapers who have been around for hundreds of years. So they have like they're an institution, or people who are part of an institution like ESPN. Well, if ESPN hires them, the thought process is that they must be trustworthy, right? And then I think it goes the other way, where if they're not hired there, then people are like, why aren't they there for me to believe them?
Yes, I think you're right, and I think it just came to a point where it was like there are some other factors visually that people judge, but I also think that if you're in the field, people know you. I use this example because Kyle and Josh are in the room. All-Star Weekend last year, you came and got me from where I was. We go to this event. CEO was there. He's acknowledging me and speaking. Scoop, what's up? We walk into next to Levine. Levine is speaking to me, and his handler at the time was saying something. We got to go, da 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 da. But it's like I just seen him 2 weeks ago in the locker room, and he gave me an exclusive about something completely different. I see in another city, and then I come to Chicago, and it's a carryover. But I think a lot of times people put celebrities on such a pedestal that you just assume this person is not like everybody else, or this person can't possibly know this person. And it's like if you're just nice to people and you're just in the field and in the mix, you're just yourself. Like that's gonna come, And I think it comes to a point where as long as you don't have anything to prove, you have nothing to lose.
Yeah, definitely. Athletes in large part, they like to deal with people who are genuine because they have so many worries about, why people are messing with them or you got to feel if you're a person in Zach's position that every time someone speaks with you that they're trying to get something from you to benefit themselves. We talk about
It's funny because like I had tweeted like a couple weeks ago, Zach LaVine is not participating in the slam dunk contest, I'm told. And one of those NBA sites retweeted it. Somebody was like, imagine actually believing Scoop. I wait for Woj or Shams to tweet it. And it's like, y'all know me, so you know where I got it from. But at the end of the day, you have to think, like, who are these people? That's how you have to treat it. And a lot of these people are all the same. That's why I've done this thing now. I just block everybody. I have like over 3,000 blocked. I report, I block everybody because now I got different eyes on me right now. And you don't want to mess up the money responding to somebody. Old me, Scoop is stupid, Scoop is this, Scoop is that. Well, I'm slimming down and then mother shops at Dick's Sporting Goods. So what?
That's a New York retort right there, man. You should have said Modell's.
Nah, they shop at Dick's.
Get a bag.
It took a second for me to catch it.
You say less, and it's like if you don't respond, they're gonna be talking to themselves.
Yep.
And the minute I stop giving a damn, that's when you get more respect. That's that I wasn't really looking for, but it is what it is.
Yeah, some people ain't even worth. It's not even. It don't even matter if you have their respect or not, because they're not even going to really meet you halfway. So, but there are a lot of groupies out there, man. People groupify anything. They'll stand anything. That like you say that. They don't want to hear from you, but they want to hear from Woj or Shams or like they just hop on these dudes like they're brand names or something.
Oh, by the way, we all talk to the same people,
right?
Like you just not naming names. You want to keep it. If you named your sources, do you think those guys are going to talk to you again? If you're not naming them, there's if Woj and Shams were in a room with me with Haynes. We'd all be having conversation and we all would be respectful because there's what I've learned through this process, particularly over the last 2-3 years. There are fans and then there are writers who are fans and then there are writers who are aggregators who are trying to be in those lanes. And they're worried about other people, but they ain't making no money. And at the same time, there's people who are in the Woj, Shams, Haynes category who they don't got time to be hating because they get money.
Yeah.
And it's like, do you think that LeBron James is worried about what Russell Westbrook is doing? No, because they get money. And I feel like what I've learned over that process is it's just a lot. It's a lot of hate, but what I'm learning is a lot of hate in this place. I wish I was in their position and they haven't even realized it yet. That's what I've really looked and observed from the last couple of years. And it's like, if you're making money, you're paying your bills on time, you're taking care of your family, you're taking care of your boys or your homegirls that have been with you since the beginning. That's all that matters. All that other who got sources, who not. Like, does that pay Con Ed? No. Like, so it doesn't matter.
It's 95% of the people who are following you, if they're not doing what you're doing, or if they've never done what you've done, they think they could do what you do, and probably 90% of those people wouldn't have any idea they wouldn't know how to move at all if they got in the rooms that that you get into. And I say that as someone who's been in some exclusive rooms with you. Like, I've seen people come into those rooms and just fall flat, and that's it's tougher than it looks, y'all. You a lot of y'all think, oh, I could mix it up with a Scoop B. I could mix it up with NBA athletes. I could mix it up with famous people. But nah, a lot of y'all ain't built for that, man. Y'all really not. So.
There's a cadence to it. But you live and you learn, and I take that as a learning experience, man. And I'm glad that y'all have been with me along the way, and continue to do so. A lot of new things coming very soon, and I'm excited about it.
It's some good energy going around right now. I think not for us and for extended people out there. You got Ken Davis he got a gig with NBC Sports Chicago now.
Yeah.
I'm feeling good about a lot of stuff, man. So I may even have some news on my front in a little bit. I'm trying to hold it back, but I'm chilling right now. But Chris getting his money, Josh doing his thing. But like I said, we all motivated right now. We like I said, going back to the beginning of the show, we're stronger now than we've ever been. So it's just good times. We gonna have some good times going forward. I believe that. But man, speaking of good times, the NBA is getting back in action now. There were some games yesterday.
11 games.
Yeah, full slate. Like, it's like a full slate tonight, ain't it? Like, I don't know.
11 won tonight.
Right. Yeah, I'm switching back. Bulls on. We talk about Kyrie, the Nets in Boston on. So, it's a ball night. But we what we think right now about coming out of that All-Star game. I think sort of up and down with that. It was give or take. There's some moments, but I don't know if there's going to be a particularly memorable All-Star break outside of the fact that it was sort of put together at the last minute and all. Did you didn't even go down there, did you, Scoop?
Heavens no.
Yeah, I think I didn't hear nothing from you, so I was like, yeah. If Scoop didn't go down to Atlanta, it would have been, if it had been one thing if you didn't go to Indianapolis, but you didn't go to Atlanta. I was like, yeah, it couldn't have been much popping at all down there.
I mean, there were parties going on though. I was hearing a lot of.
But everybody, it was parties, but people was acting the fool. Like,
yeah, based on everything you said, I wouldn't expect to see Scoop there, no matter what the Scoop was.
I'd be on my phone, but like, seriously, like, somebody I know told me that, and told me like a week before that, like, as it related to parties, like, all right, so usually with the NBA, like, they'll see different like flyers with like logos, whether it be the NBA logo or also they'll kind of gently tell you like, yo, take that off the flyer. Like, and I've had conversations with people in the league office, like they're like, I was like, yo, what you think of this flyer? Tell them to take that off, but then like they'll kind of be like pull you to the side, be like, But like this year, they were sending cease and desist like crazy, and just the word around town was like I was talking to a couple players while they were in the car on their way to Miami. It was cats on their way to Miami. Like Miami was the spot. Like there was low key parties everywhere. As it relates to Atlanta, there was like a lot of parties. Like 50 Cent was doing stuff. Bobby Schmurder just got out. He was hosting different stuff. But as far as I know, like Mitchell and Ness, like I took y'all with me to the Mitchell and Ness brunch. They didn't have anything. There was no Jordan a party. There was, like, and they had a curfew. So like a lot of guys, they were in their rooms chilling. And then a lot of guys were catching up with their fellow players and chilling. But like Atlanta was very different. It was no money out there. Like there was a couple dollars, but it wasn't worth coming out there for anything substantial. Like one of the cool things, about being home is you can really like organize your life and get stuff done. Like you look at what's home and you look at what's out there and the unknown of what's out there. There wasn't no real money out there like that.
And, not enough to get out the crib. And you had to go out. If you had to get out the crib, you had to be masked up because you had to have about 2 or 3 masks on because nobody else had masks on around you.
You had to, bro.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
I saw some thugs. The thugs was probably feasting out there in ATL too. They was leaving cars up on blocks and stuff. And a lot of players didn't want to go. Like a lot, their thought process. Their thought process was, the CBA, to renegotiate that at some point is going to come up. But like they're going to appease the owners. But when that time comes and they got to renegotiate, it better be something substantial because the only thing that the way it was told to me by someone high ranking as a player, they basically said, when it comes down to it, the only blemish they have on us is, the whole thing with China, and that wasn't their fault. At the end of the day, it comes down to, what's up with our money, who's going to negotiate it. Is it going to be one of them type of deals that benefit someone like Chris Paul or Blake Griffin, or is it going to benefit the younger guys? And that's an issue, as it relates to just that hierarchy as far as the next who's to lead that players association. But a lot of players did not want to go. They were pissed that they had to go. They were promised that there was never going to be an All-Star game. They were going to have some time to rest, and then here we are now.
I just want to know this the wings. Lou Williams wings.
Send Josh's money.
I've been hearing about them. I wanted to try them. Last time I went to Atlanta over the summer, I didn't get a chance to go because of COVID shutting everything down. So I just want, ATL with ATL. Do you know anyone that had the wings? I'm just curious.
Do I know anybody that has them?
Yeah.
I don't have any sources. Why are you asking me?
Why would you go to Scoop for that, man? You need to go to Shams or Woj for that wing news.
Yeah, right.
I see what I can do.
They need to worry about getting them vaccines, then they'll get them wings.
Or buy some stock in them.
Yeah. Buy stock in wings?
Nah, and Moderna, Pfizer, Johnson. Yes.
Brothers gonna buy stock in wings before they buy stock in Moderna.
But I hear that the wings are good. I hear that they're good.
He hears it, y'all. He hears it.
Confirmation that when COVID is over, I'm going straight to Magic City. I'm getting the wings.
Well,
so you want to know something crazy?
You know you going to Magic City anyway.
Huh?
You got to get the experience, man. How about the ATL experience?
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. You'll enjoy the experience.
Yeah, I'm sure. But anyway, I'm looking at looking at these games tonight. Jersey, I keep saying Jersey. Brooklyn got a slight lead over Boston in the half. Bulls within 4 of Philly right now. What are our thoughts on these teams coming back into the second half, man? Zach just hit a little jump shot. He had a good showing in the All-Star game, his first All-Star game. I think he feels more, and he's felt all year like he's an All-Star. He has to feel more inclined than ever now that he's an All-Star, And I think he's going to lead the Bulls pretty well in the second half, but they got a tough schedule. Philly, of course, been helping pace the East, but do we think they're going to be able to hold off the Nets?
Philly?
Yeah. Do we think they're gonna be able to hold off the Nets, or does it even matter? You know, are the Nets, Scoop? Do you think what do you think the Nets mindset are at right now? They can pick up Griffin. You know, they're trying to get some more. You know, maybe they're trying to get some more size. I don't know. You may know better than me, but you know, there's people like Drummond out there now. You know, Marcus Aldridge is out there now. As the reports are, he's you know, they're going to be San Antonio's going to be looking to trade him. And you know, what are we looking at right now? The main things that we should be looking at right now. Enter the second half.
I think everybody pays attention to Brooklyn as if Brooklyn has won the finals, and you look at Milwaukee, you look what happened last year. I think it's not a foregone conclusion. I still think that number one, Philly, at least on paper, their roster is pretty set from top to bottom. Even from, you know, you got Simmons, you got Embiid, but you also got Tobias. They're really a big three. Then you look at Shake Milton, you look at Seth Curry, which I think was one of the most underrated acquisitions of the season. You look at Dwight Howard, I think, was very underrated. And Dwight wanted to stay in LA. He just wanted a little more money, and he wanted to close games. And I think, you know, you look at LA and the situation they're in now, they could have used him at this point. You know, Montrez is cool to him, but, you know, you could have used Dwight, particularly because of that injury to Anthony Davis. But, you know, I look at Philly as an opponent. The Miami Heat are still the NBA's Eastern Conference champion, and they're surging right now. And you know, they're like a big man away. So you talk about, you know, the big man, you know, or at least a 4 or 5. LaMarcus Aldridge would look great on that team. So would Kevin Love. So would Andre Drummond. Miami has inquired about Drummond. As much as, you know, I think people think it's a foregone conclusion that Cleveland is just going to give him away and buy him out. Like, Cleveland's looking to make a move. Kobe Altman is on that phone. And so I think at the end of the day, you know, him signing with the Lakers, you know, the Lakers have an interest, but, you know, I also have an interest in making my first $1 million. That doesn't mean that I'm going to get it today. You know, so I think at the end of the day, you got to look at teams that do have that roster to potentially make a move. Yeah, we'll see what happens. But, you know, I like Brooklyn. I like Philadelphia. I like Miami. You know, and it's not a foregone conclusion that the Lakers are going to the finals. I think they have a chance, but the Clippers are still a hot team. You know, you look at the Utah Jazz, they're a hot team. Denver, you know, defensively, you know, I felt last year was all right. And I think big band position-wise, they could go toe-to-toe with the Lakers last year, and, you know, see what happens. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens moving forward.
How much credence do you give to the theory that Utah may feel disrespected right now, especially after the top 2 guys being drafted last in the All-Star thing? Or
I think that I'm learning and talking to like players, agents, and more. Like that's for storylines. That's not the reality.
Okay.
So I think, yeah, like validation should only come in with parking. I think validation is a drug. And I think at the end of the day, just win. That shuts everybody up.
But do you think they should, you know, put aside the draft thing, you know, do you think that Utah should feel like they should have a chip on their shoulder, or should they just be like, we just gonna play our game and we just gonna, you know, move forward as best we can?
I think Utah's a good young team. I remember being in LA last season at the beginning of the season and watching Donovan and Rudy Gobert against the Lakers and saying to myself, man, I feel like this Utah team I look at them the way people were starting to try to look at the Timberwolves being when they had like Wiggins and Levine and Kevin Garnett and Towns, how they were looking at that team that could like be the next good young team to be like the next it thing after the Warriors, and it never materialized. I think the only difference is at this point, the Jazz are in real time. Like I feel like the Jazz have the chance to like be a good young team. Like this is the year, particularly with like Anthony Davis being hurt, where like the Jazz could kind of sneak in and go deep in the playoffs if the right seeding happens and it works in their favor. I'm not saying it is, but what I'm saying is like I like Quinn. I like the coach. I like Donovan. I feel like Donovan is the modern day Dwayne Wade. I like Joe Ingles. I like that team. I've watched them over the last 3-4 years, and every year they've gotten better. I remember when Joe Johnson was on that team. Like every year they've gotten better. Like now is the time for them to strike, particularly because you don't have an AD right now who's hurt. You have LeBron who's carrying that team. You look at the Western Conference, like Houston's not going to the finals or to the playoffs. Houston was in the playoffs last year. Yeah, Tony left, Harden left. Like now's the time to earn your stripes and kind of make that move. And I like Utah. I like Donovan, and I feel like as much as people use that whole thing with Shaq and Donovan on TNT, Donovan was already having a great season. I think that just what happened with him in that post-game interview with Shaq just mirrored, magnified some things even more. I like Utah, man. Just like I think everybody gives the crown to the Nets already. Like Philadelphia does exist.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Chris, I don't know if it was you who said it or maybe Drew, but when we was talking Sunday, but the West, the mid to the bottom of the West isn't as strong as it typically is. So if you're Utah, you're probably gonna get a break in that first round this year. So if they can use that first round to maybe build up some confidence, and by the time they get in the second round where it steps up a little bit, they face maybe that 4 or 5. Maybe they'll have enough to pull out that series, and then you do that, and all of a sudden you're in the Western Conference Finals. Maybe you got the Lakers who may have a harder road on the other side of the bracket facing them, and you never know.
Yeah, I know. Drew and I were talking about that, the bottom of the West. I'm trying to figure out because I checked the roster from last year to this year, and that Utah team was solid last year. They won 44 games, but that's not a 27-9 pace. That's not the same. And the roster is mostly unchanged. They had Bogdanovich last year. They had Clarkson last year. The only difference really seems to be maybe a couple guys near the bottom of the rotation. So what? Josh and Scoop, because what do y'all think has changed for the Jazz? Because I can't see that much difference.
Experience. I think for me, experience played the key. The fact that last year, even without Bogdanovich, who he didn't play in the bubble because of the fact that he had that wrist surgery. The fact that he wasn't out of the bubble and they played Denver so close in that 7-game series. I think it was really the bubble where Donovan Mitchell really emerged as I am that guy now. Like I am taking the reins, very similar to what D-Wade did in 2006, especially in the playoffs, where he took over that Miami Heat team and led them to the finals. It was very similar to that. Unfortunately, Utah didn't win the series, but you can tell Donovan was sending that message with the 50-point games he was throwing up and keeping that single-handedly, willingly keeping that Jazz team intact. Pretty much saying, I have to ride. And I think that really carried over into this season, and the fact that you have a healthy Bogdanovich and a more experienced chemistry-wise with Jordan Clarkson. I think Jordan Clarkson came to the Utah Jazz last year too, at the trade deadline. So the fact that he was able to have more experience with the team as well, people get more acclimated to the Quinn Snyder system. Especially Mike Conley as well, because Mike Conley came over in that trade at the trade deadline as well last year. I think experience really just gave the Utah Jazz that extra boost. They don't need to get things really together chemistry-wise, and you're seeing what happens when you have that chemistry in a very similar, I would say, Spurs-like system that Quinn Snyder has.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it comes down to experience. I think it comes down to another year, another notch in the belt, and I think it's just confidence. I think you hit on all solid points, Josh.
Okay. Chris, like you got a bounce right now, man.
Yeah. I guess the last thing I want to say is that I agree on Scoop's point about there not being, the Nets can't automatically get the title today, even though they've recovered from their initial bout of defenselessness. You can't just Dennis Green crown them right off the bat. I will say the one thing that I want to see come out once the playoffs hit. I thought that Milwaukee losing to Toronto would one force the Bucks to make some better moves, which you could debate if they did and didn't, and would kind of harden Giannis to the point of is championship or bust time and nothing standing in my way. Now, I don't think that Giannis needs much more motivation. I still think losing to the Bulls in 2015 when they got blown out in that deciding game really put the iron in his spine in terms of I'm going to be the best. And Philadelphia is the same. When Philadelphia lost to Toronto, I thought that Joel would quit playing around as much and really take, not that he wasn't taking basketball seriously, but taking what it takes, taking the work of winning a championship seriously. So I still want to see that. He's obviously having an MVP caliber campaign, but once the calendar hits April and May is really going to tell me whether those two squads are ready, because I'm the guy who has to see it before I believe it. I'm that guy.
Okay. All right, thanks, man. We ain't gonna be on too much longer, but you gotta leave when you gotta leave, and Chris. So appreciate you coming on, and we'll see you soon.
Scoop, good to see you, man. Always,
brother. Always good to see you.
Josh, Kyle, be easy.
All right,
but yeah, I want to go back though to the East a little bit, and you meant something that stuck out to me. What you was saying when we was talking about the East Scoop is you seem a bit more confident in Miami, than I'm not necessarily not confident in Miami, but I'm just trying to figure it out with them. What makes you feel so resolved that they're going to be, the same type? Do you think they're going to be the same type of threat this year that they were last year?
The jury is still out because I think that they're still not playing. I think just across the NBA at large, I still think a lot of teams are not playing their best basketball, and I think Miami got off to a slow start because of injuries and because of COVID, and their best player, Jimmy Butler, was dealing with illness and more. And I mean, some people feel as though their appearance in the finals was a fluke. I feel like I think Bam Adebayo was realizing since the finals how good he really is in the playoffs too. And I think they need like a solid additional piece that I don't know. Like if they were to get Drummond, it would take Tyler Hero. It would take some other guys that they would have to shift. Even Kendrick Nunn, who last month played decently.
Yeah, he's come back.
Last month was hearing that the Heat were players in that Andre Drummond sweepstakes, as I mentioned. Would you imagine a team with Drummond, Bam Adebayo, and Jimmy Butler together? That's a plethora of talent, and that top heavy behemoth of Bam Adebayo as well as Andre Drummond is definitely something that is a threat to some Western Conference teams. And I think at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. I was hearing some feedback. I thought you were calling me, but I think at the end of the day, I do like Miami, but I still do think Brooklyn and Philadelphia have something to offer. To put a cap on the pen, it's still very early, and I don't think you just give Brooklyn the title without seeing how they perform in the playoffs together.
Sure, yeah, you start to hear that more. It's been over the past couple of weeks, we've been hearing that more about the Nets being. They've had some impressive performances, but like you say, you can't just give them anything right now.
And that's anybody, not just Brooklyn. That's anybody.
Yeah.
Because if you look at last year, look at the Clippers. People were ready to say the Clippers were better than the Lakers. The Clippers can beat the Lakers, and that didn't happen the way that many people thought. And I think a lot of this, they don't like LeBron, and they don't like the Lakers.
Yeah, that's what we talked about earlier, like going back to the agendas that people have in the storylines, they come to the surface in situations like that.
Yeah.
And it clouds the real analysis that's out there.
I talked to J.R. Smith a couple of weeks ago, and he was like, man, think about it. All those memes where people say I drink Hennessy, he goes, man, I don't even drink Hennessy. But then you look at, like, he'll also say, you look at the storylines of Kyrie and LeBron, they don't like each other. He goes, people make it seem like they're arch enemies. He goes, they don't have a problem with each other as much as people think. That's for storylines and ratings from his perspective. So, it's all a matter of perspective.
Yeah, those things can get from these players, and they lose control over their storylines. That's a wild thing. So I've heard that too about JR. Like, you look at dude, like his the way he keeps in shape and stuff. You figure he's not like a drunkard or anything like that, but the way that he acts, sometimes people just sort of put that stigma on him. And it's unfair in a lot of ways, but like most of anything when it deals with social media, it's mostly done for laughs, So, but at the same time, you gotta have respect for people. At the same time, you can't just be like just put crap on people and be like, we just doing it for jokes. If it ain't real, it ain't real.
Exactly.
But Josh, I wanted to hear from you in regards to because I'm interested, man. With Drummond and Aldridge, man, how much do you think that these two can shift the balance of power in regards, wherever they may go, be it on the West and on the Western Conference team or an Eastern Conference team, like, and is there any, Scoop mentioned the possibilities in Miami? Are there any particular places where you would like to see one of those two go? I know some people are saying they like to see Aldridge back in Portland, of course, where he started his career and had so much success up there, But what are your thoughts about those two big men sort of reshaping the market?
I think they offer a lot, but it also depends on the teams that they play for. Just because a lot of the contending teams can utilize their services, especially when we talk about LaMarcus Aldridge, who has an offensive arsenal in the post that really comes into play when we talk about the playoffs, and it becomes more of a half-court game than a full-court game. When the game slows down, you're going to need a skilled big man that can pretty much score from wherever, but especially in the post. And that's what LaMarcus Aldridge brings to the table. And you mentioned obviously hearing about Portland. I think he'll be an excellent fit in Portland, just because Portland, for the most part, have a hard time staying healthy, especially when it comes to the big man department. And number two, he already has the rapport with Damian Lillard, and he already has rapport with some of those players in Portland and fitting in that offensive system. That could be a deadly combination from a point guard big man perspective when you're talking about having to guard Damian Lillard, who can shoot from anywhere on the court. And with the lethal game that he has, comparing that to a LaMarcus Aldridge, who has game even now. And not to mention, you have to help you in the back on the other wing. You have Melo Anthony that's too. I think that would be an ideal situation for LaMarcus Aldridge to go to. And you talking about Andre Drummond per se. Yeah, he has a little bit of an offensive game, but he's a rebounder and a defender. The team that needs that the most literally is the Brooklyn Nets. And they have one roster spot open left. If he can find his way to a contender like the Brooklyn Nets or the Lakers, especially from a defensive end, he could fill in that role where, he fills that little bit of a gap that Brooklyn is still missing. For LA, he could fill in like the JaVale McGee and Dwight Howards did in the previous year last year, playing defensively and rebounding, so that way, they can help keep that, especially that second unit afloat. I think they have a lot to offer, but you really depends on the teams that they go to because their services fit more towards a championship contending team compared to just playing for the regular teams that they've been playing for, especially since the Spurs are on the decline and they're rebuilding. And the Cavs, they've been rebuilding since LeBron left. So I think it depends on the teams that they go to.
Yeah, Scoop, going back out west, we've been sort of commemorating AD's birthday today. You had a big post. Had a couple big posts up there shouting him out, and he's been sort of an interesting story this year because he hasn't been on the court in the way that he's wanted to, and been dealing with injuries. He's still sitting up right now, and a big part of the second half could be how much are the Lakers going to use him prior to the playoffs. Do you have any thoughts? As far as that goes, do you think that they should maybe sit him until the playoffs, or do you think they should bring him on as soon as possible and try to, and keeping in mind, their placement in the Western Conference, thinking of the seeding and such, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think resting him as much as possible is cool, but you don't want to rest him so much that when the playoffs come, he has no jetpack or no way to launch the jet. And I think at the end of the day, I think it comes down to comfort. He's not had any major injuries that I can recount, and everybody responds to that differently. You look at Kevin Durant, it seems like the load management right now, or you're not supposed to say load management, as far as his hamstring injury and things of that sort are being managed. And I think at the end of the day, I think for AD it comes down to comfort and how the Lakers are still a top 5 team overall in the NBA and the top 3 team in the NBA's Western Conference overall. It reminds me so much of Shaq playing into game shape when he played for the Lakers. And I think at the end of the day, though, I think it comes down to fit. I think it comes down to comfortability. And I think for Anthony Davis, I'd like to think he'll be okay, but I think they need some reinforcements. The same way that the Nets are loading their roster up with guys that can still hold on the fort. When they thought that Kyrie wasn't going to play, now they're doing the same because Kevin Durant is not playing. And I think in the same vein, the Lakers are looking to do the same thing, whether it's signing somebody from the G League, whether it's, plucking someone. There are some other needs that the Lakers have, not just at the big man position. Trevor Ariza is a guy that can still defend perimeter positions. He was spotted in Miami with Greg Monroe, as well as with Andre Drummond a couple weeks ago. I'll share with you, I'm told that Andre Drummond was working out in Chicago in the last few days with some other fellow NBA guys. So it's going to be interesting what happens. But, yeah, I think when it comes down to the Lakers, Boogie Cousins is someone else to be paying attention of. The Lakers still do have an interest in bringing him back, but it's all about fit. This is kind of like the point in the season where when I was telling you guys that J.R. Smith was getting a workout with the Lakers and then Kobe's death happened, the timely death, and then you're figuring out Deion Waiters, and then you're figuring out the Morris twin, and then here comes J.R. It's about fit, and we're at that point in the season now where we're figuring out what's next. Oh, and there's a trading deadline March 25th, so a lot of things to consider.
Definitely. We've been talking about some of the top teams. I think before we wrap up, are there anybody? I'm looking at the standings right now, and in the East is interesting. Of course, you got 3 teams with 20 wins already. You got, and everybody else is sort of bunched up. The Celtics got a winning record. The Knicks got a winning record. 1 game above 500. They're in the 5 spot. And, we took the Heat, like we talked about, they're at 6, 18 and 18. And, everybody else is bunched up, going back down to, 10 and 11. You got the Pacers and the Hawks. You got the play-in this year with, it's the top 10 spots really we got to look at instead of the 8. And, the Pacers are at 10 right now. Bulls are at 9 and the Raptors at 8. And there's very little separating those teams, like a game and a half separating them and put in the Hornets too at number 7. So, out of those teams, like, do you see any of those teams like really asserting themselves in the second half and really making
the Hawks and the Bulls?
Think the Hawks, okay.
The Hawks and the Bulls. I think I think Nate McMillan was wronged last year with the Pacers, and I think now is the unfortunate firing of Lloyd Pierce.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
gives the Hawks a chance to play for something. To you look at the Hawks tonight. I believe they're playing the Raptors, and the Raptors are is not their roster is kind of limited because of injuries and protocol. This is a chance for them to win. I'm not looking at any scores right now. I don't know how things are faring at the point that we're talking, but I think at the end of the day, the Hawks are a team that has a chance. It would be cool to see. It'd be a cool story. You look at also the Bulls. They're a ninth place team currently. They were, eighth, teeter-tottering between seventh, eighth, and ninth, as high as sixth, if I'm not mistaken, in the first half. That'll be interesting. You look at the Washington Wizards, another team that injuries have not been their friend. Bradley Beal and as well as Russell Westbrook, had a win against the Raptors right before the All-Star break. The last game going into the All-Star break, they had some wins against the Lakers and a myriad of other teams. So it'll be interesting to see. But I definitely think the Bulls are a team to pay attention to going into the rest of the season, just because they've been healthy and they're still looking to make a move to potentially land and make a splash. Thaddeus Young is being very heavily monitored by rival teams, and be interesting to see if he's used as a piece to potentially bring in Lonzo Ball, as I've been reporting. Over the inauguration day, I made mention of the fact that there were a multitude of teams, including the Bulls, the Mavericks, the Knicks, and a multitude of other teams that are monitoring him. And it'd be cool to see. I know Kobe White is off limits, but a package that may include either with another team or the rights to Larry Markkinen, as well as Thaddeus Young, Satoransky, and more. There are some teams that could take that unloading from the Bulls. So we'll see.
But there have been some reports saying that Young may be, he's being prioritized. Or if he's not off limits, he's being prioritized. Do you think that maybe AK sort of negotiating in public?
I think that Thaddeus Young is a player that offers veteran leadership, and if the Bulls and the Pelicans end up making a move, while I think Steven Adams is a great leader on that team, Thaddeus Young gives you scoring and rebounding and runs the floor in a way that is the type of rhythm orchestrated by Stan Van Gundy with the Pelicans organization. So, Thaddeus Young is somebody that I think could help them, but, we'll see. But I definitely think know that, the Bulls as a team, if Lonzo's traded, he'd like to go to. I also know that the Bulls have been watching him and there is interest. So we'll see.
And we've been talking about that over the past weeks, and I like to see them pull the trigger there. Hopefully, I think more and more. Like I said, I got Drew sort of flamed Laurie a week or so ago on our Substack site. He said that and I'm sort of agreeing with him. Like, the Bulls are less in need of Laurie now. And if you can flip him for Lonzo Ball, yeah, if you could flip him for Lonzo, man, I'm with that. I'm with that. But speaking of the balls, though, that's what she said. What about Melo, man? The new Melo, man. He's giving some energy to that Charlotte team, man. He looks like he's rookie of the year, going to be rookie of the year, and they're in the mix, in the playoff mix with Charlotte. What do you think about them?
They are, and I like the way that they brought him in. Borrego bringing him in not as a starter, but as a bench player, and making him earn his keep reminds me so much of. It reminds me so much of Brandon Jennings' entry from Italy to the NBA. He learned the Italian game, the overseas game, and then came over there in the NBA. It seems like LaMelo will have more of he'll have more of it seems currently he'll have more of a lasting impact. But Brandon Jennings had some memorable games too, and he mixes it up. I watched him play out of high school, playing in the basketball league his dad ran for a while, and early on, still in his development, I thought he was going to be like a Tracy McGrady, and just long term. But the way he gets the basket, the way he gets other teams involved, it's just a great situation in a lower key city in Charlotte, as opposed to like the Lakers or the Nets or the Knicks or teams like that. So I like LaMelo Ball in his first year. Definitely has a rookie of the year flair to me, and we'll see what happens.
Okay. Josh, any other teams that have sort of stuck out to you, or do you think maybe interesting in the mix? Like say the lower teams that may be in the mix in the playoffs. Either in the East or West. And looking at the West right quick. You got the Trailblazers and the Nuggets are in the fifth. They both got 21 wins each. They're in the fifth and sixth spots out there. Look at the top four, of course, is the Jazz, Suns, Lakers, and Clippers. That would seem it seems that those four will hold up in some fashion. Then you have the Blazers, the Nuggets, the Spurs are at 7, and it's interesting. They're talking about getting rid of Aldridge. They seem to be, this is something that only the Spurs can do, rebuild on the fly. They're one of the teams that, they always are about their business, and they find ways to. That's not a team that's going to bring in money. They're not a team that's going to bring in a high-profile person. They're going to get rid of a high-profile person and work with some of the younger guys, and they'll still they may eke out a playoff spot still. Because you got some of the teams that in the West that seem to have gone backwards in some ways. You look at the Mavericks, the Grizzlies, the Warriors are hanging on at 10 right now with a 19-18 record. And really, the Pelicans really have stepped back, but you couldn't tell it by the national schedule. They're always on freaking TV for some, because of Zion. But, it seems like after them, there's really not much competition in the West. Because Thunder, Kings, Rockets, and of course Timberwolves not really playoff bound. But when you look at like say the middle to the bottom part of the West, any of those teams intrigue you, Josh?
I think the team I will be looking at the most is the Warriors, and the reason why I say the Warriors is because Steph obviously has been on a tear as of late, going back to the old MVP Steph. That we were accustomed to seeing, and how that's actually galvanized this young roster. Without Klay Thompson, Draymond is getting back, slowly but surely going back to his older form. And even the impressive performance of James Wiseman. Wiseman has stepped up in ways too, development-wise, where he's really starting to fit in and be that strong foundational piece for this Warriors team. But I'm also looking at it because of the fact that, they're looking to make moves too at the trade deadline. Myers made it known that he said we're open to making talks, and if we got to get rid of our young talent for a top tier player, they're willing to do it. So I believe just with the March 25th deadline taking place, I'm going to be looking at the Warriors to see that obviously they're trying to bring in some help and relief because it appears they don't want Steph to play this way for a whole season. So I wonder what type of help they're going to try and get over and go to state. And I think depending on how that goes, the Warriors could, be one of those sneaking teams where obviously you got the play-on tournament where they could play in the tournament, but they may even jump into like a 7th or 8th seed depending on the moves that they make prior to the trade deadline.
There's been some talk here in town about, going back to the Bulls, about Otto Porter being a possible buyout.
Yeah,
and it would seem that if that happens, that the Warriors are going to jump on him. I think that could be a good move very much because you talk about a 3-and-D guy, length. He shoots the ball well. The issue with him is health, and but I think he's getting healthy right now. The Bulls. Mm-hmm. He had a nice little spot. It was sort of like the mid to end December where he was showing out a bit. And he was being used by the Bulls well. And, he's a guy that, I wish he could have done more here. But, like I say, the injuries he just couldn't get beyond that. But in a rotation, in a young rotation like Golden State, if they're not giving up anything at the deadline and they still have Wiggins and whatnot, they're not going to need too much from Otto Porter. They're just going to need him to, like, say, do some spot minutes, come in,
call it a day.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, just do it. Do what they know he can do, and that definitely adds to their rotation, adds to their depth going into the postseason. So I see what you said, Josh. And whether it's him or if it's another person, they figure to do something. So I wouldn't sleep on them either. And speaking of the devil, Porter just coming in with the Bulls game. I don't know what they're gonna do tonight, but Philly. Philly is Philly. They're a tough team, so we'll see how that goes. But I think we're gonna start to wrap up here. It's been a good about 90 minutes or so, man. Again, glad to hang out with you brothers on this this edition of Running, despite some audio issues. I don't know what it's about, but hopefully not too bad. I'll see on the playback how they sound. But again, it's going to be pretty interesting to see how this second half plays out. I think the top seeds in both conferences are pretty much set. It's going to be a little shuffling there, but a lot of the storylines going to come from those middle to middle to low seeds, and the fact that you have the extended seeds now for the play-ins. We saw what happened in the bubble, though. There was a little added excitement there with the Western Conference, at least, where they had that play-in game. So, it'll be interesting to see who sets themselves up for success in those play-in games, and how will that impact the matchups in the first round. Who eventually gets to see those top seeds and one or two seeds in the East and the West. So, we got a lot to look at going forward. Definitely keep up with our guys here. Josh is going to be, doing this thing with ITS. He's got a nice interview coming up Friday. To tell the people about that.
Yeah, I have Josh Bonathal. I think Bonathal is how you say his last name. I keep getting it messed up because it's such a difficult to pronounce. But I got Josh Bonathal coming on my show. He's a former Chicago Bulls trainer. He was an assistant trainer with the Bulls when Derrick Rose first entered the league. So he helped train Derrick Rose his first 3 years in the league, including his MVP season. And we talk about, his relationship with Derrick Rose, how he was able to build that. What was it really behind the scenes with Derrick Rose, especially in the training rooms, and when it comes to his workouts and getting him into basketball, really basketball shape and stronger, and especially with his nutrition too. The rumors about his eating habits are very true. And the fact that he's also part of this new fitness group, this fitness brand, this company called Future, not the rapper. And and they talk about how he's utilizing what he's been trained and known to do all of his life to give back, to help not just athletes but us as regular individual folks to give back, to help us be healthy in all facets of our lives. So it's a good conversation, something you definitely do not want to miss.
For sure.
Okay. And Scoop, of course, is always doing this thing. He's, like you said earlier, he's got what?
I was going to say, and congratulations, Josh.
I appreciate that.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. Congratulations. I'm trying to say. I'm trying to figure out what congratulations are for. I don't know. Did I miss something there or what?
No, that's a big interview.
Oh, he just congratulated him on that. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. Big up to Josh, man. He's ITS is he does it when he can now, but he's busy, so I let him off the hook. But when he does get his shows in, he does well. So I appreciate that, Josh. And nice. I'm trying to get your plug in, Scoop. You got the Bovada series with Lisa Ann. That's you say you're doing those on Thursdays, right? So you just did one today.
5 Eastern time, 4 p.m. Central time.
Okay.
And, so that's going on every Thursday. Tweets about odds, and Scoopy Radio is still moving. A couple guests a month, and some other things coming down the pike very soon.
I'm sure. And yeah, like I said, we keep it moving here, Regal, War Media, and we got. I had a little college stuff on the agenda, but I'm gonna save that. I guess we are gonna have a special on Sunday. Should be during the selection special, like before and during the selection special.
Mm-hmm.
Is going to be involving, of course, our second city sports folks, Lakina McGee and Sydney Brown, and we got some special guests there. That should be on our Twitter page,
Mm-hmm.
on War Media Twitter. So check that out on Sunday. I will say though, there's been some interesting stuff with Illinois and Michigan. Two potential number one seeds coming out of the Big Ten. Michigan is getting it's being named as the Big Ten champion. Technically because they had a better winning percentage than Illinois, but Illinois had more wins and they beat Michigan the one time they played. So there's been some controversy down there in Champaign. They're trying to say, that we should share the title and stuff. I would say look back to '89. In 89, Illinois beat Michigan 3 times, and they lost to them in the Final Four. And Michigan wound up getting the national championship. That's what y'all need to focus on. Focus on that tournament and focus on getting the big award, not the just the conference stuff. But that said, I do think Illinois will win the conference tournament this weekend, and I think it'll set them up for a nice deep run. But I ain't got nothing against Michigan though. I love Michigan. Actually, I had a reverse Jalen Rose jersey. That was one of my favorite jerseys from the '90s. It was reversible. You may remember it was reversible. It had you had the maize and the orange, the blue, and you had the orange. It was sort of like a practice jersey, but that was one of my favorite jerseys. We are, Scoop. No, we came up during that Fab Five era, and of course, one of that Fab Five, Juwan Howard, Chicago bred. He from the mud, CVS, but we got Illinois. We need a national championship, man. Whether it's U of I or Loyola, we need a national championship here at the crib. So I'm rooting for Illinois this year. But that's all I'm gonna say now for college stuff, and come back on Sunday for more of that. I don't even know if I'm gonna be on the show. I'm gonna be producing it, but I may drop in with some more hot takes on the show as well on Sunday. So watch for that. Watch for Josh, ITS coming tomorrow. And Scoop, of course. If you don't know about Scoop, you got your head in the sand, man. I don't know what you're doing out here, man. So, we know you better know what Scoop is on. So, but that's it for now, y'all. Appreciate all y'all who joined us online. If you haven't, whether you're live or on the replay, check out the podcast version of this episode if the sound is decent enough on Anchor. We're on Anchor, and that's it for now. Though we'll send it off. Enjoy this weekend of games, all type of games, college and pro. To enjoy this weekend. Keep take care of yourselves, take care of others. Keep wearing masks outside. Don't let these politicians fool you. If you in Texas or Mississippi, take care of yourself just like you would any other time. And enjoy your stimmies. And we getting through it, man. We a year out of this mess. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Pretty soon we're gonna be able to dap each other up and hug each other out in the streets and play ball and be aggressive on the court and not worry about getting sick. And we're gonna keep doing what we do, man. Keep living, keep thriving, and we're gonna keep bouncing. All right? We out.